Little People, Big Guns, Prologue. The green door to the Mill Village Roadhouse squeaked open, spilling intermittently bright orange light and the sort of raucous noise 24 beard-up rednecks generated after a couple hours of dwarf-tossing. A couple hours Gordon Trask used to clear $500, after he paid off the bar owner and downed a couple of tequila shots for the road. He stumbled down the stairs on legs too short for his plump body, barely keeping his feet. Despite the near spill, a smile crossed his broad face. $250 per hour, hell of a lot better than the call center, and he had plenty of time to get some shut-eye. Before he had to get in that goddamn bus and head to the office the next morning, spend all day pestering complete strangers about debt consolidation plans. "Have a good night, Gordon," someone slurred before the door crashed shut behind him. He pulled his smartphone out of his pocket. His Honda was in the shop again. Fixing that ignition problem would probably consume most of the 500, and so it would be a long walk home. 4855 Farrell Avenue, Johnstown, Oklahoma. The GPS app took a minute to process his instructions. He gave the phone a shake. He didn't have all goddamn night. Finally, the map of Johnstown, the green trail that would take him south back to his apartment, appeared on the screen. At last, he muttered, before beginning his long trudge home. A pity Johnstown didn't have a cab service. He didn't trust Uber, not after those scandals. He rounded a bend in the road, the bar falling out of sight behind him. Ahead lay the state highway, near empty at this time of night. Just a mile, and then he'd hit Farrell Avenue close to downtown. After that, it wouldn't be too far to his apartment. He looked down at his legs. Just a mile, huh? Waddling quicker than usual, he turned on the highway. There's a bright white stripe between the bulk of the road and the grassy shoulder. A nice, safe space for walking if any cars showed up and the driver wasn't expecting pedestrians. The wind picked up, blowing right into his face. He squinted. The sudden chill cut through his jeans and flannel shirt. He pushed forward. The aches and pains typically came with the night getting thrown at a Velcro wall were starting to kick in. Tomorrow would be hard enough, and he wanted to get enough sleep. Metal clicked behind him. Gordon spun. A big man on a bicycle bore down on him. Gordon didn't have time to shout. He threw himself to the side. He didn't land in grass. Instead, he fell through open space. He slammed into something hard. Damn it! Bounce. He hit something else. Shit! Something hard dug into his side. Son of a bitch, that hurt. He was airborne again before hitting something else. Bastard! Bounce. Fuck! A long and terrible second passed before he slammed into the ground and stayed on it. But that didn't mean he stopped moving. Now it was time to roll straight down what was left of the hill until he came to a stop at the bottom. He lay there for a long moment before dragging himself to his feet. He scowled back up the hill. Goddamn Hanyak would be long gone by now, and he was stuck down here. He looked up at the grassy expanse towering over him. It wasn't going to be easy getting back to the road. He gritted his teeth and started up. Inconvenient dip or rock, Gordon couldn't quite tell which, soon ended his ascent. He rolled back down the hill, banging his knee even worse, giving a liberal dosing of mud. Shit. It looked like he'd have to parallel the road until the ground leveled out, and then maybe he'd download the Uber app, questionable background checking be damned. Ahead, the ground was relatively flat, thank God, and open all around. His hand drifted toward his wallet. Maybe he should have had them pay him using PayPal. They'd formed a Little Persons Association after Marquise had gotten robbed by those kids a few years back, and just because something hadn't happened in a while didn't mean it couldn't. He shook his head. Stop it. The ground rose beneath him as he walked. It wasn't long before he stopped dead in his tracks. A wall of towering trees lay ahead, their spreading limbs and leaves burying the ground in deeper darkness. He looked back up toward the highway. Even though the ground was higher here, the hill back up to the road was still too steep for it to climb in his condition. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. He stopped to double-check his leather wallet with the cash still firmly in his jeans pocket, then waddled toward the darkness ahead. As the shadows beneath the trees swallowed him, his heart began to pound. He tried to whistle that pretty pop princess's cheerful song about shaking it off, but his whistle petered out after a few minutes. He sighed. Shit. He flicked his finger across the face of his smartphone. The fading ghost light from the screen brightened once more. The light pushed away the darkness, but not very far. He looked at the battery. 35%. He wasn't going to use it on a flashlight. If he kept getting his scrapes, he might need to call someone to come get him. Maybe he should have asked for a ride. As James put it, pride came before the fall. Pine straw crunched at his feet as he made his way into the woods, his phone lighting the way ahead. He was making a good pace. If this was the woods on the left when Jimmy had given him the ride to the roadhouse, it wouldn't be long until he was out on the other side. Not long at all. Something snuffled to his left. He froze. He hoped to God it wasn't a coyote or feral dog. Even the littlest of those bastards would be a problem with someone of his condition. His hand drifted to the taser hanging from his belt. "Who's there?" He slowly raised the taser. Nothing happened. I'm fixing to piss myself here. He shook his head. The faster he got out, the better. He kept walking. The crunch of the pine straw and occasional stick beneath his feet was the only sound. He was making good pace. It wouldn't be long at all before he was out of these spooky woods, and then, snuffling, something slammed into his hurt knee from behind. Shit! Both knees slammed to the ground. Pain reddened his vision. The phone flew from his hand, but he kept a good grip on the taser. The snuffling came again, much louder this time. Gordon swung the taser, the sparks between its electrodes casting a blue-white light. Something big and gray and furry retreated into the darkness. Gordon gritted his teeth against the pain from his knee. What the hell? He pulled himself up to his feet, pain running the length of his leg. Ahead his phone lay screened downward, rimmed by blue-white light. He scrambled forward and snatched up the phone. Enough was enough. He started dialing 911 and no signal. He remembered he was on the phone with James about association business a week ago while driving up to the roadhouse and the call got dropped. He didn't remember the dead zone being that large, but large was a lot larger on foot. He'd stop and try again when he got out of the woods. The woods aren't that big. The woods aren't that big. He looked down his short legs, blood trickling from tears in his jeans. Then he took off running. He hadn't run in years, and even then it left him exhausted, but he'd worry about that later. Lights shined ahead. Gordon's heart leaped in his chest. There was a gas station on the highway between the roadhouse and Jonestown proper. The lights alone would frighten off whatever was attacking him, and there would certainly be someone driving to the hospital. He waddled faster, twisting this way and that with his taser up. Help! No answer. Help! He shouted again. I'm hurt. Something's trying to eat me. Something snuffled to his right. Gordon spun and pointed the taser. Back off! The gray, furry shape pulled back in the shadows, but an opening in the trees allowed just enough moonlight to reveal what just attacked him. It was a badger. A badger. Help! Gordon shouted. Just got attacked by a goddamn badger. Still no answer. Gordon kept one eye on the badger. It looked back at him. Then another badger hit him from the left. The blow knocked Gordon onto his side. This time the taser flew from his hand. Shit! Gordon scrambled for the taser, but something heavy pinned his legs. A quick glance behind revealed a second badger sitting on his ankles. The furry predator just looked at him. Let go! He tried to kick, but the badger was too heavy. His legs went nowhere. The first badger ambled toward him. Gordon's breathing came fast. He strained toward the tase with his right arm. The second badger kept him firmly pinned. Shit! He strained against a claw zigging to his legs. His fingers were almost touching the pebbled plastic grip. Almost. Then the first badger lunged. Its fangs sank deep into his right shoulder. Gordon screamed and swatted at the badger's fist. Oblivious to the blows, the badger kept gnawing. Gordon kept hitting the badger's snout as it worried at him. Let me go, you son of a bitch! More pine straw crunched to his left. Gordon threw a glance toward it. A third badger approached, this one bigger than the others. Get away! Gordon threatened with his left fist. The badger kept ambling his way, jaws open and fangs obvious. Get away from me! The first badger's teeth clamped into something sensitive in his shoulder. Gordon was still screaming, and the third badger's teeth buried themselves in his throat.